Hello everybody, International Master Mon Hamilton here, bringing you the final recap video from the Pro Chess League. This is the recap video for the semi-final match between the Montreal Chessbrahs and the St. Louis Archbishops. Fabiano Caruana against Wesley So. The headlines were there. This was a very important match for $10,000 and obviously a spot into the finals against a team to be determined, which ended up being Magnus Carlsen's Norway Gnomes. But this match was probably the most intense match of the entire playoff weekend. This match went until triple overtime, and no matter who loses that match, it's going to be a heartbreaker and it's going to be a nail-biter. And this one was, as you can see on the screen there, the final score 19-17 for the St. Louis Archbishops. The Montreal Chessbrahs went down, losing only the second match of the entire season in the Pro Chess League. But 19-17, triple overtime. I'm going to get into exactly how that happened, but first of all, some bullet points about the match. Fabiano Caruana had a great match this week. He scored 7 points out of 9. He only lost one game, that was to Wesley So, and in general, he was scoring 3 points and 3.5 out of 4 for each round. Fabiano had a great week. On contrary, Eric Hansen didn't have his best performance. He's been performing very well the entire season, scoring 3 points or more almost every week, and this week he was scoring less than 2 points, 2 points or less in every round for a final score of 3.5 out of 9, less than 50%, and for his standards that's just far below what we're used to. On board 3, Alexander Lesiège, he scored 4.5 out of 9. He had a 50% week. He always has his up and down moments. He starts off the matches very well, he performs very well, usually against the GMs from the opposing team, but often can have shaky games or even drop games against the lowest rated opponents. So once again, Lesiège had an on and off week. He scored some huge results that were absolutely necessary to keep us in it, but also blundered away some positions which I know he would love to have back. So 50% week for Alexander Lesiège. Moves on to Elias Usyk on 4th board, 2 points out of 9. Definitely underperforming for this week, but when the lineups are so stacked, it really comes down to the board 4 matchup, and we'll see exactly what happened when we get into the games here. So first of all, guys, let's start with Alexander Lesiège playing white here against Varuzhin Akobian from St. Louis, and it's once again the trend that Alexander Lesiège gets off to a good start. He always starts the match well, and we see here with the white pieces against a strong GM. After the move bishop to h7, he took advantage of that with a nice move queen d7, and attacking the d7 and a7 pawns, he managed to win a pawn and then easily convert this position. So right off the bat, round 1 of the entire match, Alexander Lesiège put the Chessbrahs ahead, and it should be said that throughout this match, the Chessbrahs were leading up until the final round of every match. So on we move to Lesiège's up and down moments. As I said, here's a game where he's playing against the lowest rated player in St. Louis's team, Nicholas Rosenthal here with white. Alexander Lesiège has black, and after the move rook c3, he plays the move knight c5, which looks like the ideal square for the knight, but a nice little move queen c1 threatens the move knight e5 and the pawn on h6. And after king g7, maybe not seeing the tactic was coming, knight takes e5, and this was one of the biggest upsets of the entire match, I think, which was Alexander Lesiège losing with the black pieces to the lowest rated player from St. Louis, and this is definitely a huge blow because, as I've said, he can take down the stronger players from St. Louis, but he struggles with the lower rated. So up and down week for Lesiège as we move on to Eric Hansen, who didn't have a great week, but it was marred by a few mouse slips, as we see here. Rook g8 was played, and again, this is Nicholas Rosenthal, who did win I think a board prize for his rating section. He was obviously one of the highest performing players in the entire league for board 4. And here, unfortunately, Eric has these 3 connected pass pawns, and the move g5 would probably lead to a victory soon after, but the move g6 and rook takes g6, you even have to worry about losing this position. So the move g6 coming in as a mouse slip is definitely a tough one to take. When you're playing the lowest rated player, you obviously want to collect as many points during that matchup as possible. So a tough one to take there, but this match was so long, there were so many mistakes by everybody, it's really hard to pick on individual moments. We go to a game of Eric Hansen's against Varouche and Akobian, and it should be said that Eric really struggled with Akobian in this match. 0.5 out of 3, only one draw out of the 3 encounters they had because of all the playoff games that we had to do, the tiebreakers. Only 0.5 out of 3, and this is a game where obviously black is totally fine, and Eric playing black here is actually probably even pressing as both players get low on time, but just not identifying the right plans in time trouble, and white has a very easy plan of undermining this pawn chain and then picking off the weak pawns. So black continues with rook e5, king g1, a5, and basically because black didn't have the time or didn't realize the accurate continuation, white just plays the move b4, and all of a sudden these pawns are too weak, and we see white clean up like this, and of course this position is completely losing. So a tough break there, because perhaps something more accurate like maybe queen a5, keeping an eye on the e1 square when the king moves to g1, maybe queen b6 with the idea of queen f6 as well. Obviously black is totally fine, but anything happens in time trouble, guys. So a tough week for Eric, and also a tough opponent in Varouche and Akobian. Moving on to Fabiano Caruana, who, as I said, had a stellar week. 7 points out of 9, only 1 loss on the week. And here's one game which was definitely the fastest game of the entire match for any matchup. And he was playing Akobian here with the white pieces. And after black's move h6, just want to show knight g3. And this win was very, very clean for Fabi. He was also playing very quickly. He knew exactly how to carry out this attack. Knight to f5, and after f6, knight e6. You guys can see the finish. The knight on d5 is weak. This diagonal is vulnerable. The rook lift coming to g3, and of course there's sacrifices on h6. The pawn on g7 is hanging. Let me just show you exactly how it finished. Knight g7, queen g6, rook h3, and a couple moves later, Akobian had to resign with checkmating coming and heavy material losses. So Fabiano with a nice game here, and also had a pretty big moment against Grandmaster Wesley. So he held Wesley to 2 draws, and although he suffered a loss, which was actually the game right here in question, with the match situation almost decided, this game was the important one. If Wesley won this game, the match would be tied and we would go to playoffs. And if Fabiano could draw or win, then we likely would have been the winners of the semifinal. And after the move rook h6, rook a2 check, king e3, both players with seconds on the clock, just shows how human these 2800s are. Knight g4 is on the board, it's in the position, but the move rook a3 was played. These guys were playing on seconds. It's hard to pick on Fabi for this moment, but man, that would have been sweet. Winning an entire rook and simply winning the game on the spot would have sent the Chessbrahs into the next round, but anything can happen, as I said, with seconds on the clock. This match was so full of blunders. I can say, watching from the sidelines, that it is very nerve-wracking, because when you're in the game, you don't feel like the game is that sloppy, but from a bird's eye view, everybody was making mistakes, and it was just about who could capitalize on them. Moving on to Elias Usyk here with the black pieces. Although he struggled against Nicholas Rosenthal from board 4, he had his bright moments when he did manage to beat Benjamin Feingold from St. Louis. Benjamin playing white here, Elias playing black, and very early on in the game, queen e2, queen e7, just maybe a slightly better position for white, but just fairly equal. White plays the move knight e5, and after bishop takes, pawn takes, he didn't see what was coming. Elias plays the move queen b4 and wins a piece outright in the opening, just an entire piece, and did go on to win this game. That was a huge result for the Chessbrahs. Unfortunately, it was the exact same round that Le Siege lost to Nicholas Rosenthal, so it was kind of balanced out. Both board 4s coming up with a huge upset. So fortunately, those did balance out for the match situation for St. Louis, but Elias here showing that he's not on board 4 just to take some losses and then fight against board 4. Elias has been beating GMs throughout the season. So although only 2 points this week for Elias, and he did suffer against Nicholas Rosenthal, as we see in this next game, he did come up with a big upset victory against Ben Feingold, and that very nearly allowed us to win the match. Here we are, Elias playing the black pieces here, and at this point, this was when the match situation was very tense in the last round, and the Chessbrahs, it should be said, have blown 2 leads in this match. For triple overtime, we were leading up to the final round of every 16 games, and the problem was that our last round was just our worst round. We were losing 3.5-half, 3-1, 2.5, 1.5 in the last round. It wasn't a good round for us, and Elias actually saved the entire match here by getting a draw in this position, because after White had a huge advantage, I believe the players actually agreed to a draw. I'm not sure if Nicholas Rosenthal knew what was going on in the other matches, but with the position a little tense here and the knight checks coming in, the players agreed to a draw, and this actually completely saved the match based on the other results. So we went 8-8 in the original rapid format. Then we had the Blitz playoff 3+2, where you repeat the entire match with opposite colors. That went 8-8 as well. And then finally, as luck would have it, we play another Blitz playoff, but it's a 4-game mini match, which means you replay the final round of the regular portion, which means that board 1 plays board 1, board 2 plays board 2, etc. And that was always the final round, and that was always our worst matchup. And unfortunately, we did lose that, and that meant that the St. Louis Archbishops went through. A very tough loss for the Chessbrahs to take. Going over the match again, Fabiano, great to have him on the team playing for the Chessbrahs. He had a great match today. Elias only scored 1 out of 3 against Rosenthal. That board 4 matchup often decides the entire match, which is very important. Eric Hansen had one of his worst weeks of the league, which is definitely a tough loss to take for him, because he's been having performances that, he's scoring 3 out of 4 points every week, and this one was clearly an outlier on that graph. Alexander Lussiege, it should be said, he was 2-0 against Jacoby this week, so he really took the guy down. He did draw Wesley So, actually, a game I didn't show, but he drew him in the Blitz portion as well in the tiebreaks, and also he went 0-2 against Benjamin Feingold and lost to a 2100. So the results were all over the place. There were lots of blunders, as you can see here. The St. Louis Archbishops, congratulations to them. They did go on to play in the finals and beat Magnus Carlsen's Norway Gnomes. So they are the Pro Chess League champions. So I guess in some respects it is nice to know that the team that beat you did go on to become the champions. But on the other hand, that means it could have been us. So there's a lot of excitement for this year Pro Chess, a lot of disappointment as well just at the very end, but I think we showed that we are absolutely one of the top 4 teams, if not one of the top 2 teams in the league, and we're definitely ready to come prove that again next year. A lot to work on for everybody on the team, especially our clutch performances in the final round here. We blew 2 leads against St. Louis, so that's a big reason why we weren't able to close this match out. We had all our chances, and we lost in tiebreak after tiebreak. So a very exciting match. I know Miodrag Perunovic was bringing the energy with the commentary. We had a record number of viewership for that. Thanks to everybody for supporting the Chessbrahs in the inaugural Pro Chess season, and we'll definitely be back next year. And thanks everybody for continuing to cheer us on, and we'll see you next time.